G'day guys, welcome to today's tutorial. Today we are talking about the Swiss bar overhead standing military press or overhead press, however you want to describe it. I actually am starting to come around to the idea that potentially this is the best way to do a standing military press because of the way in which your shoulders are structured and that they are slightly tilted forward at a 45. So the reason why you don't want to go behind the back of your head is because not only do you have to shift your neck forward, but it actually puts your shoulder blades or your shoulders in a poor stability position. Okay, that's the reason why you'll see people when they're doing a dumbbell press, they'll have their bench slightly back down a cog. It's to allow our shoulders to open up, right? You shouldn't be pressing with a straight vertical back. It's the reason why in all the other tutorials they get you to pull your shoulder blades back and down to open up that shoulder joint and allow some really nice smooth pressing motions. Also, it's why I also tell people that when they do a dumbbell press for chest press, that it's a really fantastic way to alleviate shoulder pain is instead of coming down at a 45, instead of coming down at right angles, come down at a 45. Now you can see here that this bar has 45-degree options. So anyone who struggles to press overhead with a barbell because you can only sort of go at the 90-degree hand position, the Swiss bar is a fantastic option to allow you to sort of alleviate a little bit of that shoulder structural issues with your hands by simply coming down to the 45. So that's the reason why I'm starting to gravitate towards the idea for overall shoulder health and the ability to lock into position, that the Swiss bar is probably one of the better alternatives, if not the best idea for your shoulder press. Okay, so that being said, so obviously it's pretty evident that the reason why we would use the Swiss bar for an overhead press is because of the fact that we have accessibility to the 45-degree hand grip. Also, we have a neutral grip, so you can come in, be a little closer or a little wider depending on how big your shoulders are, and your hands can be in a neutral position. Obviously, whenever we do any presses with the barbell, your hands are always in, well, I suppose a pronated position, but your hands are over the top. Okay. So, how do we set up for this particular exercise? It is exactly how we would set up for the barbell overhead standing military press. If you haven't seen that, then I suggest you go across and you look at that particular short film. But we'll go through it ever so quickly. Now, just like in every exercise, we need to make sure that every barbell or free weighted exercise, we need to make sure that we are completely in control and stable in order to progress and become better. So we want to create a nice stable platform to press from. So it will all start with your feet. Now, what I want you to do with your feet is you're going to screw them in. Now, why would we start creating stability and nice strong structure through your body? It's a system called stacking, so we want to make sure that everything is in aligned, everything is nice and strong, because when you are pushing force down into the ground, equal and opposite reaction is going to come up, and you're going to be able to lift the weight and be able to keep nice and centered, stable, and over time you're going to get a lot more out of the lift. Okay, also, why else do we do this? Well, let's think of this now more bodybuilding. We want as much time under tension as possible, and we also want to execute, put as much load through that working muscle as possible, so as much tension through that muscle. When we screw our feet in and we lock our knees out and we stack, what happens is that you alleviate this slight knee bend up on the toes or hip thrust in order to get that weight up. So now we remove momentum. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to screw our feet in, lock our knee slightly out and squeeze on those quads, squeeze on those glutes. It's going to take care of your lower body. We are going to pull our shoulder blades back and down to open up those shoulder joints, and when we come down, that barbell is going to come to the front, not the back. Go to the back, we put ourselves or our neck in a vulnerable position. It's not worth. So when it comes to a good exercise or a bad exercise, there's always a risk to reward ratio. So for example, what's the risk of us coming back versus what's the risk coming forward? At the forward, there's very minimal risk, except for the fact that you might do your shoulder maybe overloaded, one side's heavier than the other, who knows, right? But we come back here, not only are we back here, we lose stability, we put our neck in a vulnerable position, all sorts of different risks, factors pop up, and arguably it's not worth going behind the head. That being said, if you want to go behind the head, more than welcome. Just don't knock yourself out and do it on the back of my advice. Okay, so let's get this underway. Now, with most lifts, what I would suggest you do, especially if it comes to growing muscle, we want to keep as much time under tension or mechanical tension as possible. So we're going to come all the way up. We're going to start in this position and we're going to go as slow as we can down. Okay, touch, press, touch, press. Okay, so we're going to control that negative. We're thinking. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you've got to go super, super slow. It's not the case at all. It's just a case of we want to see a demonstration that you can control the weight and then press nice and fast. That's all. It can be a 2 second, 1, 2, press, 1, 2, press, and away we go. It's probably more of a 3 count, but that's what I refer to controlling your negatives and then pressing hard through. So I'm going to grab a hold of the 45. You can definitely grab a hold at the 90 degrees if you want, but it just so happens that I've set this up for the 45. So we're going to pull our shoulder blades back and down. We're going to start the stacking process slightly already. We're going to take a few little steps out now. What I would suggest is obviously the way the camera is set up, the way the thing is set up, I'm going to be walking out, but I would rather you start in, say, this position here, take a couple steps back, press above your head, and then re-rack it forward, because when you're fatigued, then it's easier to find the hooks because you're walking towards it, rather than having to come back and go, oh, touch and feel, touch, there it is, okay. So that's a little advice, right? Again, so we're going to come in, shoulder blades are going to be pinned back and down. We're going to set ourselves underneath the bar first. Now, I apologise if this barbell hits the mic. Okay, underneath, stand up, little steps. Okay, stack, so lock those knees out, glutes come on, shoulder blades back and down. From this position, we're going to press up fast. 1, okay, and we're going to hold. It's a poor example. So we want the bar to go above our head, and then on the way down, we're going to push, we're going to open ourselves up, so we're going to rock our head back just slightly, allow it to pass our shoulder blades, all while we're keeping our shoulder blades pinned back and down. Press above our head goes under, shoulder blades back and down still, control, press, head under, control, press, head under, okay? And this is how you want to be doing your overhead Swiss bar presses. One thing to be aware of is that when we do pull our shoulder blades back and down, what can happen is that we can overextend and arch through this lower portion of our body, and you can see that when I'm in this position, I'm very open here. Now, why is that important to us? Well, if we get in this position like so, and if I was to draw a straight line of that bar traveling, you'll notice that potentially the bar travels through my body. Let's really over-exaggerate this, right? So if the bar was to come down this way, it would travel through my body, which means most of that joint is loaded, or most of the weight is loaded to the lower portion of my spine. This is why we want to make sure that we're stacked, so that when the bar is above our head, and we underneath, like so. Now I'm a poor example, my lat flexibility sucks, but hopefully with you it's a bit different. We're above, shoulder blades back and down, okay? and you will notice that the bar, if I was to have the bar there, travels straight down and straight through the middle of my body. Ideally, our spine will be nice and stacked into our hips into our legs on a nice stable position on the ground. Okay, so I cannot stress enough that when you are coming up, head needs to go under, to be nice straight and in line like so. Okay, I'm a very poor example of it. I know my hands aren't going all the way above my head, poor flexibility, so we're gonna have to work on that. But team, that there is how you want to go about doing your Swiss bar standing military press. I hope you picked out a few little tricks and tips with this particular tutorial.